All right, so I'm picking up where my other demo left off. I have my color here that I made, so I can use it day after day after day without remixing it. And on the cart, what I didn't tell you was I moved your brushes over. I get very skinny brushes for this, and sometimes I get slightly medium brushes. I have my cup of water, and I have a paper towel. The paper towel is actually really important. And I made a mini version of my artwork. So here we go. I got my water, I got my paper towel, I got my Shape Wars. And this is so random, but sometimes your art teachers don't always show you some tips that are helpful. So I just want to give you a few helpful tips. I'm going to open this up carefully. And the first thing I usually do is wet my brush. So I am a painter. Your art teachers do all different types of art, but painting's my thing. So I wet my brush. And I also dry it. Like, that's why I have my paper towel. I'm constantly drying it. And when you dip it in, I don't know if you guys have noticed this before, but you get globs of paint on your brush. So first off, I only try to keep the paint on the hairs of the brush. I try to keep the bristle or the handles clean. And I wipe off the excess on the side. I don't know if your art teachers have ever told you that. I definitely wipe it off. In fact, I often use my lid, and with the paint on my brush, I actually will twist my whole brush. So this is kind of hard to see, but I twist, 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 twist. And what I'm doing is I'm making a pointy kind of chisel tip without a lot of paint on it. I know it's really hard to see, but think about that. So often I see many of you struggling to paint, and you say, well, how do you do it, Mrs. Altieri? I wipe the excess off, and I make sure I twist my brush so it's really pointy. Then I rest my hand, which is hard to see. I got this weird, like, fancy pinky. Do you see my fancy pinky? I rest my fancy pinky on the table because it steadies my hand. If I tried to paint like this up in the air, I shake. So I rest my hand against the table, and I slowly outline carefully. And when I start to run out of paint, I stop. Sometimes I get a little more water, get a little more paint, wipe off the excess, twist, twist, twist. And I turn, rest against the edge, and I paint some more. This paint you can use water with. It's totally fine if you want to thin it out. And I tend to outline first. So I'm like outlining all these areas. And when I start to run out of paint, which happens pretty quick, you go back and you get some more. I'm getting it off the lid now. And I outline, 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 outline. And then after I'm done outlining, if I have a bigger space, then I might switch to my bigger brush, get some more paint, and paint in a big area. So that's some of my painting tips. I hope it helps you. I did another painting earlier today. It's kind of like a cooking show. And when you look at it, it's totally normal to not have perfect painting. So if that happens to you, when you come back in tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday, I often will use my Sharpie to re-outline. And if you need to, I put out by the paint cart behind Haley, I put out the Sharpies and the stencils again. So if you need a stencil to re-outline with, you can. But don't be discouraged if you cover things up. Even I did a little bit. And then I just go back and I re-outline things. Feel free to use a stencil, a ruler if you need to. I hope some of those tips help you. Remember, the paint is on the cart behind Haley. The brushes are there. And the last little thing I want to say is my 7th and 8th graders are using up the drying racks in here. So we don't really have many drying racks. So what I'm going to try to do with you is use this big board, and I'll just put in 2 teeny tiny little push pins, and we'll hang anything that's wet on here. It's double-sided, so hopefully we have enough room. So if you're painting, please don't put this back if it's wet. Come on over here, and during cleanup, I'll stand here and I can hang your stuff. There's a lot of info. What questions do you have? All right, make sure your masks are up while you're walking around the room. Project collectors, can you please go get the Shape Board projects? Nico, we got to get your dragon. Everybody else, if you want to get your piece, you can. You just need to wait because your drawing is fine.
So grateful, right? Great. So grateful. Yeah.